Welcome to Lazy Days. Hi, I'm Barney Alexander, Senior Driving Instructor here at Lazy Days RV in Seffner, Florida. Today we're going to show you a lot of techniques that we teach every day here at Lazy Days RV as part of our driver confidence course. If you've never driven a motorhome before, when you're finished watching this DVD, hopefully you'll say to yourself, "Self, this is nowhere near as hard as I thought it was. I can do this." The lessons in this DVD were developed over many years of research and have helped more than 30,000 students become better RV drivers. So whether this is your first motorhome or you've been driving for years, hopefully you'll learn something new from these lessons so you can become a more confident motorhome driver. We're going to cover a lot of techniques in this DVD, so let's get started. The mirrors on your motorhome are constantly feeding you information as you drive. They're letting you know what's around you and your coach. It's up to you to process that information and to use it to make good driving decisions. To do that, you have to set your mirrors properly, and that's what we're going to discuss now. So let's get started. Most motorhomes have a total of 4 mirrors. 2 mirrors on the driver's side and 2 mirrors on the passenger side, a total of 4. Sitting in the driver's seat and looking through the windshield at the road, the driver's side set of mirrors will be about 3 feet from you on the left, and the passenger set of mirrors will be about 6 to 7 feet from you on the right. Looking at both sets of mirrors in this diagram, you will see that you have 2 mirrors on the top and 2 mirrors on the bottom. The top 2 mirrors are called flat mirrors. They're just like the mirrors in your bathroom. They show you a true picture. Actual size, actual distance. Your flat mirrors are typically 6 to 8 inches wide and 10 to 12 inches tall, and they're usually powered. So any adjustments you make to your flat mirrors are made by a switch in your coach's cockpit. You should adjust your flat mirrors so that the first inch and a half of the mirror looks right down the side of your coach. Once you have it properly adjusted, you can look into the flat mirror and know where the outside walls of your coach are. For the up and down adjustment, remember that the flat mirror's purpose is to show you what's approaching you from the rear. So you want to adjust your flat mirrors so that they do just that. Looking down at your coach from above, the adjustment you just made shows you your coach and straight back. The flat mirrors don't look out to the side, they look straight back and show what's behind you. They show you what's approaching you from the rear. Here's a side view of your coach. From this perspective, the flat mirror gives you a line of sight just like that. The flat mirrors are just like the side mirror on the driver's side of your car. They show you a true picture with actual size and actual distance. Now let's take a look at the convex mirrors on the bottom of each mirror set. These mirrors go by a variety of names. We'll call them convex mirrors, but they're also known as spot mirrors or reference mirrors. But to you, the motorhome driver, they're your new best friends. You are going to use these 2 mirrors more than you've ever used mirrors before in your life. Every time you go around a curve, every time you make a turn, you have to look at the convex mirrors to see what they're telling you. Hopefully they're saying, "Hey, look at that, you missed everything this time." If you could look in a mirror and wear it out, you'd be replacing your convex mirrors all the time. That's how much you're going to use them. The objects in these mirrors are closer than they appear. The convex mirrors will show you that something is out there, but unlike your flat mirrors, they won't show you a true picture. They're convex like the mirrors at the end of a hospital hallway. They'll show you something is there, but they'll lie to you about distance and size. In a moment, we'll learn how to use these mirrors, but for now, let's set them up properly. Your convex mirrors are adjusted manually. So sit in the driver's seat and have your partner adjust the mirrors so that the first 1/4 to 1/3 of the mirror shows you your coach. Looking at the coach from above, you can see that the convex mirrors allow you to see your coach and way out to the side. Now for the up and down adjustment of your convex mirrors. You want these mirrors to overlap the view of the flat mirror just about at the rear of the coach. Once you do that, the convex mirror should allow you to see somewhere just behind the front tire. Now you have your convex mirrors set. You'll set your convex mirrors one time and never set them again. If you do it right, they should work for anyone who drives your coach. Let's review what we've learned about adjusting your mirrors on your motorhome. Most motorhomes have a flat mirror and a convex mirror on the driver's side and a flat mirror and convex mirror on the passenger side, a total of 4 mirrors. The flat mirrors will show you a true picture with actual size, actual distance. When you set them up, you want the first inch to inch and a half showing you your motorhome. The flat mirrors don't look out to the side, they show you your coach and straight back. The purpose of the flat mirror is to show you what's approaching you from the rear. Your convex mirrors are your new best friends. Every time you make a turn in your motorhome, you have to look at these mirrors to see what they're telling you. Have your partner manually adjust them so that 1/4 to 1/3 of the mirror shows you your coach. The convex mirror looks down your coach and way out to the sides. Once you set your convex mirrors properly, they'll work for anyone who drives your motorhome. Properly adjusting your mirrors is very important because your mirrors are going to constantly feed you information as you drive. They're going to let you know what's around you and your coach. In order to become a good motorhome driver, you have to learn how to interpret what your mirrors are telling you. You have to learn how to use your mirrors, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Your mirrors are constantly feeding you information as you drive your motorhome. Setting your mirrors properly is the first step towards being able to understand what they're telling you. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use your mirrors so you can make good driving decisions based on what your mirrors tell you. So let's get started. Here's your coach on the highway. We're looking at it from above and we're showing you your mirrors so we can demonstrate how to interpret what you're saying. As you drive your motorhome and a car approaches you from the rear, when the car is about a mile or so from you, you'll see it in the top of your flat mirror. As the car gets within a 1/4 mile from you, you'll see it in both your flat mirror and your convex mirror. It will look like a big car in your flat mirror and a little car in your convex mirror, but it's the same car. As the car pulls alongside of you, it will drop out of the view of your flat mirror, but you'll still be able to see it in your convex mirror. As the car passes you, your peripheral vision will pick up the car's hood and the convex mirror will still have the trunk. And as the car pulls ahead of you, you'll see it through the windshield. So from the time the car is a mile behind you all the way to when it passes you on the driver's side, you'll be able to see the car, either in your mirrors or with your own vision. Now here you are in your motorhome and you're in the high-speed lane and a car is approaching you on the passenger side. A mile or so away, the car will appear in the top of your flat mirror. About a 1/4 mile away, the car will be in both your flat mirror and your convex mirror. As the car pulls alongside of you, it will drop out of your flat mirror, but it will still be in your convex mirror. But when the car gets into position to pass you on the passenger side, it will enter a blind spot. You won't be able to see it. Looking at the passenger side of your coach, you can see the car is in a blind spot. This blind spot varies from coach to coach, but on most coaches you won't be able to see the car when it gets into this position. A lot of motorhome drivers have run cars off the road because they just can't see them when they're in this blind spot. The best way to handle your passenger side blind spot is to ask your co-pilot if it's okay to change lanes. Your co-pilot can see what you can't see from the driver's seat. They can let you know if it's clear or if there's a car there. Here's how you can determine how big of a blind spot you have on the passenger side of your coach before you find out on the highway where it can be a dangerous lesson. Sit in the driver's seat and have your partner stand at the back tire on the passenger side about 8 to 10 feet from the coach with both hands placed palm down right at the chest. The reason for holding their hands like this is they're showing you roughly the height of a car. Now have your partner walk forward and watch them in your passenger convex mirror. Have them walk forward and when you lose them, honk your horn or say stop. That's where your passenger side blind spot begins. Now have them continue walking forward and when you can see them again, have them stop. Now you know roughly how big a blind spot you have on your motorhome. As we said earlier, the best way to deal with your passenger side blind spot is to communicate with your co-pilot and ask them if it's okay to change lanes. But if you're traveling alone and your coach does not have side cameras, or your co-pilot likes to sleep a lot, you might want to invest $10 or $12 and purchase a wide-angle lens, also called a Fresnel lens. This lens can stick to your passenger side window and it can show you most of your blind spot. Looking at your coach on the passenger side, when a car is in your blind spot, you look out your passenger side window and you look right over top of the car so you can't see it. If you place the wide-angle lens on your window, you should be able to see what's in your blind spot. Let's review what we've learned about using your mirrors. Once your mirrors are properly set, you should be able to see an approaching car in the flat mirror when it's about a mile or so behind you on a highway. About a quarter mile away, you'll see the car in both your flat mirror and your convex mirror. And as the car starts to pass, you can see it in your convex mirror and with your peripheral vision as well. From a mile away to when the car passes you on the driver's side, you'll be able to see the car the whole time, either with your mirror or through your windows. Now as the car approaches you on the passenger side, you'll be able to see it in your mirrors just like you would on the driver's side, but when it starts to pass you, the car will enter a blind spot. To find out how big the passenger side blind spot is on your coach, have your partner walk from the passenger side back tire to the front of the coach with their hand showing you roughly the height of a car. When you can't see them in your mirror or through your passenger side window, have them stop and notice where they are. That's where your blind spot begins. The best way to deal with your passenger side blind spot is to communicate with your partner and ask them if you're clear to come over. You can also purchase a wide-angle lens, also called a Fresnel lens, and place it on your passenger side window, and it should show you most of your blind spot. Knowing how to interpret what your mirrors are telling you is important so you can make good driving decisions when you operate your motorhome. Your mirrors will let you know what's around you when you drive your coach. And the more you drive your coach, the more comfortable you'll become with using your mirrors. When you sit in the driver's seat of your motorhome and look through the windshield at the road in front of you, there's an area you can't see in front of your coach. It's a blind spot. Different coaches have different size front end blind spots, and it's important that you know how big the blind spot is on your coach so you can make the proper adjustment when you drive. That's what we're going to show you in this lesson. So let's get started. When you sit in the driver's seat of your motorhome, you're sitting a lot higher than you would in a car, and you're looking out over a much longer dashboard. So when you look through the windshield at the road, here's your line of sight. That means you can't see any of this area immediately in front of your coach. It's a blind spot. The average coach's blind spot is 15 to 17 feet. Some coaches are a little more, some are a little less, but the average front end blind spot is 15 to 17 feet. Now let's show you how to determine the blind spot on the front of your motorhome. Sit in the driver's seat and have your partner stand in front of the motorhome, directly in front of the steering wheel. Using hand signals, back your partner up until you can see their whole body, but not their shoes. You want to look out the windshield and see their whole body down to their ankles. Now measure the distance from your front bumper to your partner's shoes. Whatever that distance is, that's your front end blind spot. Again, the average coach's blind spot is 15 to 17 feet. Yours might be a little more or it might be a little less. But it's important to know how big your front end blind spot is, because the whole time you drive your coach, that's how far in front of your motorhome you can't see. Let's review how to measure the front end blind spot of your coach. Sit in the driver's seat, look out the windshield, and back your partner up until you can see their whole body except for their shoes. Now measure the distance from your front bumper to your partner's shoes. That's your front end blind spot. One key to becoming a good motorhome driver is learning to expand your comfort zone that you're used to in your car. All motorhomes have a front end blind spot, but now you know how to determine the size of the blind spot in your motorhome, and you can learn how to make the proper adjustments when you drive. That's what we're going to talk about in the next lesson. A lot of drivers handle curves in their motorhome the same way they would handle them in their car. As a result, they run the risk of running traffic in the oncoming lane off the road. We're going to show you why this happens and what you can do to properly handle curves in your motorhome. So let's get started. Let's take a look at how a lot of motorhomes handle curves. Here comes a motorhome, and notice how it travels through the curve. The front of the coach goes around fine, but look at the back tires. They drift into the other lane, and that can either cause an accident or run the traffic in the oncoming lane off the road. Looking at the same curve to the right, notice that again. The front goes around fine, but the back tires fall off the road. Why do so many motorhome drivers handle curves this way? The answer lies in the fact that motorhomes have a large front end blind spot as a result of the drivers sitting so high and looking out over a large dashboard. The whole time you drive your motorhome, you can't see this area in front of your coach. Remember, we discussed in a previous lesson that the average coach's front end blind spot is 15 to 17 feet. As a result, a lot of drivers start turning too early on a curve because they look out and see the end of the road, so they start to turn. The back tire's off track and they run into the other lane. In a previous lesson, we talked about how to determine the front end blind spot on your coach. Now we're going to show you how to mark your windshield so you can properly handle curves in your motorhome. Measure 16 feet from the front bumper of your coach, right in front of the steering wheel, and place a water bottle or cone on the ground at the 16-foot mark. Now sit in the driver's seat and look out the windshield at the road in front of you. Notice where the water bottle is and place a dot on your windshield right where you see the bottle. Now when you look out at the road, you know where 16 feet is in front of your motorhome. It's right at that dot. Now here's how you're going to use that dot when you handle curves in your motorhome. You're going to approach the curve and wait until you see the little dot touch the edge of the road, then make your turn. You're going to feel like you're about to fall off the edge of the earth because that's what you see. You can't see the space in front of your motorhome, but if you wait until the little dot touches the edge of the road, then make your turn, the front of the motorhome will ride along the edge of the road and the back tires will stay in your lane. Just like that. This technique does not work the same way to the right as it does to the left. But what you want to do is pull forward until your dot is in the middle of the oncoming lane, then make your turn. Your nose will be in the oncoming lane, but these types of curves are typically handled at slow speeds of 5 to 15 miles per hour. So the oncoming traffic will see you're making a wide turn, and hopefully they'll give you plenty of room. The important thing is that your back tires will stay in your lane and they won't get damaged from running off the road. Now let's review how to properly handle curves in your motorhome. Because of the front end blind spot, many motorhome drivers turn too soon when they approach a curve. As a result, the back tires off track and drift into the opposite lane, which can run the oncoming traffic off the road. Measure 16 feet from the front bumper of your coach. Now sit in the driver's seat and look out the windshield. And with your partner's help, mark that spot on your windshield with a little dot. Now, as you approach a curve, keep going forward until you see the dot touch the edge of the road. Then make your turn. You'll think you're going to fall off the edge of the road because that's what you see, but notice how much room you still have. As you make your turn, the front bumper of the coach will ride along the edge of the curve and your back tires will stay in your lane. The technique doesn't work as well when you turn right on a curve. But if you pull forward until your dot is in the center of the oncoming lane, then make your turn, your nose will be in the other lane, but your back tires will stay in your lane and not get damaged as a result of falling off the road. Now you know how to properly handle sharp curves at slow speeds. Remember, your motorhome is always going to do the same thing. Your back tires are always going to off track and the tail is always going to swing. But the more you practice these systems and techniques, the more consistent you'll be when you drive your motorhome. When you drive your motorhome, it's very important that you know where your back tires are in your mirrors. In this lesson, we're going to show you how you can mark your mirror so you'll always know where your back tires are when you drive. Let's get to it. In the previous lesson, we showed you how to set up your mirror so that you know what they're telling you as you drive. One of the things you always need to know when you drive your motorhome is where your back tires are in your mirrors. If you look in your mirrors, you can see down the side of your coach, but you can't see your back tires. Here's something you can do that will help you know where your back tires are in your mirror. Go to your back tire on your driver's side and place an object on the road, right next to the center of the back tire. Now, as you sit in the driver's seat and look at your convex mirror, notice where the object is. That's where your back tire is. On most coaches, it should be just under the center of the mirror. You'll have to try this on your coach because it might be a little different. Now go around to the passenger side and do the same thing. Place an object next to the back tire and notice where it is in the passenger side convex mirror. This little exercise will show you exactly where your back tires are in your mirrors. If you want, you can mark the spot with a Sharpie or a little white out so you can get used to where your back tires are in your mirrors. Let's review how to mark your back tires in your mirrors. Place an object on the ground right next to the center of your back tire. Now sit in the driver's seat and notice where that object is in your mirror. Depending on the make and model of your coach, it should be just under the middle of the mirror. If you want, you can mark that spot with a marker or some whiteout. Now you know where your back tires are in your mirrors. Remember, anyone can drive the front of a motorhome. It's getting the back of the motorhome to go where you want that can be difficult. But knowing where your back tires are when you drive is crucial and invaluable when you make turns, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Making a turn in your motorhome is a lot different than making a turn in your car. But we're going to teach you a reference system that you can use to safely make turns in your motorhome. Let's get started. All your life, when you've driven your car, you stop at an intersection and simply make your turn and go on your way. It's second nature. Just turn the wheel and go. Everyone can drive the front of a motorhome. It's just like driving a car. You stop at an intersection, turn the wheel and go. But in a motorhome, unlike a car, you in the front go around fine. But look what the back tires are doing. They're not going where the front tires go. They're off tracking and the tail is swinging. So, your first time out in your motorhome, you knocked over this stop sign and you took out this fire hydrant. Not a good start. But we're going to show you a reference system that will help you make turns in your motorhome without hitting anything because of your coach's off tracking. It starts with learning your motorhome's degree of wheel cut. The degree of wheel cut is a measurement that tells you how far your wheels turn from when they're perfectly straight to when they're turned all the way to the right or to the left. Looking at your coach from above, if you start with your wheels perfectly straight and then turn them all the way to the left and measure how far they went from here to here, that's your degree of wheel cut. Now the best way to learn the degree of wheel cut on your coach is to ask your salesperson. They should be able to tell you, or they should be able to find out for you. The majority of coaches have a degree of wheel cut of either 45 degree or 50 degree and above. These numbers play a significant role in the reference system you're about to learn. If you have a motorhome with a 45 degree wheel cut, you will use your front bumper as a reference point. If you have a coach with 50 degree or higher wheel cut, you will use your hips as a reference point. Here's how it works. Now before we get into reference systems, it's important to note that this system does not work in parking lots. But out on the highways, when you come to an intersection, before you make your turn, you have to determine what you do not want to hit, get your reference past it, then make your turn. So here you are in your coach with a 45 degree wheel cut. The green line is your bumper, that's your reference point. You come up to the intersection and you want to make a right-hand turn. So you look to the right and you see there's a fire hydrant, a stop sign, and a curb. You don't want to hit those, so you pull forward until your front bumper is past what you do not want to hit, then make your turn. And look how the back tires come through the turn. They're still off tracking. They're not going where the front tires went. But the reference system accounts for your coach's off tracking. So as long as you get your reference point past what you do not want to hit before you make your turn, you shouldn't cause any damage to your motorhome or take out an innocent telephone pole or bus stop when you turn. Let's take a look at the same turn with a coach that has a 50 degree or higher wheel cut. The blue line is where your hips would be when you sit in the driver's seat. That's your reference point. So before you make your turn, you need to get your hips past what you do not want to hit. Then safely make your turn. Left turns are no different as far as the reference system goes. But because of all the extra space you have to make a left-hand turn, they're much easier to make than right-hand turns. You still need to get your reference point past what you don't want to hit before you make your turn. So here you come in a coach with a 45 degree wheel cut. That means you're going to get your front bumper past what you don't want to hit, then make your turn. And in a coach with a 50-degree or higher wheel cut, you get your hips past what you don't want to hit, then make your turn. Remember, this only works on highways. It does not work in parking lots. But you may find yourself in a situation where you attempt a right-hand turn and you don't quite make it, and now you're cut off by oncoming traffic in the other lane. The key in this situation is not to panic. Don't wreck your coach because you think you're out of options. Just sit there patiently and wait for the light to change. Then the cars will go around you and you can go on your way. It may feel like an eternity as you sit there, and let's face it, none of these people are going to vote you Motorhome Driver of the Year. But just sit there and say to yourself, "Self, I'm never going to see these people again." So let's review how to make turns in your motorhome using the reference system. Before you make a turn in your motorhome, you have to determine what you do not want to hit. Get your reference point past that, then make your turn. If you have a coach with a 50-degree or higher wheel cut, you have to get your hips past what you do not want to hit before making a turn. And if you have a coach with a 45-degree wheel cut, you have to get your bumper past what you do not want to hit before you turn. Right-hand turns will always be harder to make in your motorhome than left-hand turns because you have less room to make a right-hand turn. But if you make too wide of a right-hand turn and are cut off by oncoming traffic, don't panic. Just sit there patiently for the light to change and the cars in the oncoming lane will go around you and you can go on your way. The last thing to remember is the reference system only works on highways. It does not work in parking lots. Now you know how to make turns in your motorhome using the reference system. The best thing you can do is get in your motorhome and practice what you've learned. And remember that every minute you spend behind the wheel of your motorhome will make you a more confident and capable driver. Just like your first grade teacher, your motorhome has eyes in the back of its head. You've got a camera on the back of your coach and a monitor in the cockpit so you can see what's behind you when you drive. We're going to show you how to learn what the camera and the monitor are telling you so you can use that information when you operate your motorhome. Here we go. Your rearview monitor is just like an electronic rearview mirror. It will show you exactly what's behind your coach. Just like the other mirrors on your coach, it's up to you to set your camera and monitor properly and learn what the monitor is telling you so you can use that information when you drive. Here's a side view of your coach. Here's your camera up here. And here's your monitor that's in the cockpit. Sit in the driver's seat and look at your monitor. How much of your coach do you see in that monitor? If half of your monitor shows your coach, you don't have your camera set properly. Remember, the point of your rear view camera and monitor is to see what's behind you. So if all this part of your monitor is showing your coach, that's wasted space. You don't need to see that much of your coach in your monitor. You want to see a little bit of the back of your coach, and the rest of the monitor should show you the area behind you. So let's set your camera up properly. Ideally, you should only see your coach in the lower 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch of your monitor. Remember, the monitor is an electronic rear view mirror. You wouldn't want the rear view mirror in your car showing you your car. You want to see what's behind you. The same is true in your motorhome. The point of the monitor is to show you how close something is to the back of your coach. So naturally, you only need to see enough of your coach in the monitor so that you know where the back of your coach is, and then you can determine how far you are from something. Now your camera is set up properly. Let's show you how to learn how far from something you are. Sit in the driver's seat and have your partner go to the back of the motorhome, measure 3 feet from the rear bumper, and place an object at the 3-foot mark. Now look in the monitor and notice where the object is. How far is that from your coach? Well, you know it's 3 feet because you just measured and put it there. You can take a piece of pinstriping tape and mark your monitor right at the 3-foot mark. So now you know when something drops below that line, it's less than 3 feet from your coach. That information is important, especially when you're backing into a campsite or a parking place. You know how close something is to your coach, or if you're about to hit something, just by glancing at your rear view monitor. How much total distance does your monitor show you? Well, that depends on the type of coach you have. Every coach is a little different. But here's something you can do to determine how much total distance your monitor shows you. Pull your car to within 3 feet of the rear bumper of your motorhome. Then get in your motorhome and slowly pull forward until the tow car reaches the top of your monitor. Now get out and measure from the rear bumper of your coach to the front bumper of your tow car. That measurement is how much distance your monitor is showing you. It varies from coach to coach. It might be 10 feet or it might be 90 or 100 feet. If it's 90 or 100 feet, you can use that information when you pass someone on the interstate, because you know when the car you pass reaches the top of your monitor, it's 90 feet away from you, and you can come back into your lane since you have plenty of room. Let's review what we've learned about your rear view monitor. Your rear view monitor is just like an electronic rear view mirror. It shows you what's behind your coach. Be aware of the wasted space in your monitor. Set your camera so that you only see your motorhome in the lower quarter-inch or half-inch of your monitor. To determine how far something is from the back of your coach, measure 3 feet from your coach's rear bumper and place an object on the ground. Now look in the monitor. That object is 3 feet from your coach, so you can mark that line on your monitor with a piece of pinstriping tape, and you'll know that when something drops beneath that line, it's within 3 feet of your coach. The amount of distance your monitor shows you varies depending on the make and model of your coach. Pull your car to within 3 feet of the rear bumper of your motorhome, and slowly pull forward until the car reaches the top of your monitor. Now measure the distance between your coach and your car. That's how much distance your rear view monitor is showing you. Now you know how to set up and operate your rear view camera and monitor. Having the rear view camera is like having eyes in the back of your coach, and the monitor is just like an electronic rear view mirror. Just like the other mirrors on your coach, your rear view monitor is constantly feeding you information. Knowing how to process and use that information will make you that much better at driving your motorhome. Backing up is the most dangerous thing you'll ever do in your motorhome. When you drive your motorhome, you back up 1% of the time, but more motorhomes are damaged while backing up than when they're going forward. Backing into a campsite can be intimidating, but we're going to show you a system that will take a lot of the guesswork out so you can be more consistent when you back up. We're going to show you how to back into a site under ideal conditions, and you can build off of this lesson. So let's get started. Every time you back up your motorhome, you need a spotter to help you. The spotter is your guide. They can see what you can't see, and they can point you in the right direction. The best place for the spotter to stand is at the rear of the coach on the driver's side. From this position, both the driver and the spotter can see each other in the driver's side mirrors. Do not stand behind the motorhome if you're the spotter. If you're behind the motorhome, the driver can't see you in the mirrors. They might be able to see you in the rear view monitor, but as soon as you signal that it's okay to come back, the driver will look into the mirrors as they start to reverse, and if the spotter trips or falls, the driver won't see them and the spotter can get hurt. So do not stand behind the motorhome if you're the spotter. The driver must know where the spotter is at all times. If you're the driver and you don't see the spotter, you don't move the motorhome. You just sit perfectly still and wait for the spotter to appear. The driver and the spotter must be in constant communication with one another. Hand signals are one of the best ways to communicate because they're nonverbal, and the spotter can let the driver know which way to turn the wheel or how much room they have before they hit something. When you're the spotter, make sure you make your hand signals nice and big so the driver can clearly see you and there's no confusion about what you're trying to communicate. Before you learn how to back into a campsite, we need to mark your coach one more time. Go to the center of the back tire on your motorhome and measure forward 8 feet and make a note of where the mark is on your coach. Hopefully there's a handle or a seam or something you can associate with the 8 feet. If there isn't, you can put a small piece of tape there. Now go to the passenger side of your coach and do the same thing. From here on, this will be known as your 8-foot mark, and you'll use it every time you back your coach into a campsite. Now let's talk about backing into a campsite. Have you ever heard of a can of oil called 3-in-1? 3-in-1, that's the easy way to remember how many steps you're going to use to back your coach into a campsite. If you follow this system, a lot of the mystery and guesswork will be removed from parking in a campsite, and you'll be a lot more consistent as a result. Here's how it works. We're looking at an overhead view of a campsite. And right here is an imaginary line about a foot, foot and a half into the site. This line is where the driver's side tires are going to end up when you're parked. So here comes your motorhome. You want to move over to the left about 1 to 2 feet from the edge of the road and pull your coach up and put your hips on this imaginary line. This is position number 1. In this position, it's a good idea for the driver and the spotter to get out of the coach and walk around the campsite. A lot of drivers don't bother doing this, but it's a good way to get the lay of the land so there's no surprises like low-hanging tree branches or broken glass or things like that. So here we are in position number 1. Now the spotter is going to come to the driver's side and stand on this imaginary line approximately 1 arm's length from the coach. So the spotter should be able to reach out and touch the coach. Now the driver is going to pull forward and the spotter is going to stop them when the 8-foot mark that we measured earlier is on the imaginary line where the spotter is standing. Just like that. And you can see how important communication is between the driver and the spotter, because the driver can't see the 8-foot mark on the coach. They're relying on the spotter to be their eyes. This is position number 2. At this point, the driver will turn the wheel all the way to the right. Once they've turned the wheel the maximum distance to the right, the driver will pull the coach forward and look into the mirror at the spotter, who will remain in the same place as they were in position number 2. The driver will continue to pull the coach forward until they can no longer see the spotter's right shoulder in the top mirror. It's a good idea for the spotter to continuously tap their right shoulder to make it easier for the driver to identify which shoulder they're looking for. Once the driver can no longer see the spotter's right shoulder in the mirror, the driver will stop the coach. This is position number 3. Now the spotter will back up into position to bring the driver into the campsite. The driver will turn the wheel all the way to the left, look into the mirror, and follow the spotter's signals as they back into the site. Once you've successfully backed in, you've reached the 1 of the 3-in-1. Under ideal conditions, it's much easier to back your coach into a campsite from the driver's side. Trying to back from the passenger side is 3 times as difficult. The 3-in-1 system will work, but just be aware that it's more difficult. So when you pull into a campground, have your escort bring you to your site so that the site is on the driver's side. Even if it takes a little longer, it'll be worth it. Now let's review how to back into a campsite. Backing up is the most dangerous thing you will do in a motorhome. Every time you back up, you need a spotter to help you. The best place for the spotter to stand is at the rear of the coach on the driver's side so that the driver and the spotter can see each other in the driver's side mirrors, and so the spotter can communicate with the driver using hand signals. Remember the 3-in-1 can of oil, and you'll never forget how many steps there are to backing into a campsite. Pull your coach forward and put your hips on the imaginary line where the back tires will ultimately end up when you've parked your coach. This is position number 1. This is a good time for the spotter and the driver to get out of the coach and walk the site, making note of what's there so there are no surprises when you back in. Now the spotter will stand on the imaginary line approximately 1 arm's length from the coach. With the help of the spotter, the driver will pull forward until the 8-foot mark is on the imaginary line. This is position number 2. Next, the driver will turn the wheel all the way to the right and pull forward and stop when they can no longer see the spotter's right shoulder. This is position number 3. Now the spotter will move into position and the driver will turn the wheel all the way to the left and with the spotter's help back into the last position, at which point the coach is parked. Remember, it's a lot easier to back your coach into a campsite on the driver's side. The 3-in-1 system will work, but it's more difficult from the passenger side. Now you know how to back your motorhome into a campsite using the 3-in-1 system. The best thing you can do is get in your motorhome and practice this system, and the next time you go camping, you'll be the talk of the campground when you impress your neighbors by showing them how well you park your coach. Let's talk about how to properly exit a highway in your motorhome using the off-ramp. Just like any situation when you operate a motorhome, you need to have a plan when you exit a highway. We're going to show you a few techniques that will help you execute your plan safely. Let's get started. Most highway exits are built for cars, not for motorhomes. So here you are in your motorhome exiting a highway using the off-ramp, approaching the lane you want to merge into. You come down the center of the lane and you stop, just like you would in your car. You've just blinded yourself to oncoming traffic in the merge lane. If you look in the driver's side mirrors, you'll see the off-ramp because that's what's behind you. You can look out the driver's side window and you'll be able to see some of the merge lane, but you won't be able to see the oncoming traffic. Exiting a highway is just like any other situation when you drive a motorhome. You have to have a plan so you know what you're going to do ahead of time and you don't put yourself in a bad position. Here's what you want to do. When you come down the off-ramp, use your whole lane. Run along the left edge of the road like this, and as you approach the merge lane, start turning right just enough so that you can see the oncoming traffic in the merge lane. Now, if you look in your mirrors, you should be able to see the oncoming traffic as it approaches you. If you're a little out of position, you can adjust your top mirror just enough so that you can see what's approaching you. When the lane is clear, you're in perfect position to safely make your merge just like that. Let's review what we've learned about exiting the highways in your motorhome. Most highway off-ramps are built for cars, not for motorhomes. If you approach an off-ramp in your motorhome like you would in a car, it's real easy to come to a stopping point where you have limited visibility of the oncoming traffic in the merge lane. You need to have a plan when you exit a highway. Use your entire lane and position yourself so you can see the oncoming traffic in the merge lane when you come to a stop. Use your mirrors, adjust the top mirrors slightly if you have to, and make your merge when the lane is clear. Now you've learned a few techniques you can use when you exit a highway using an off-ramp in your motorhome. Just remember to have a plan and know what you're going to do before you approach a driving situation. Having a plan will make you a much more confident driver of your motorhome. And remember, a confident driver is a safe driver.